Oh, I'll do what you do.
Hold Hi, on. Everybody. It's Plastic EP here. And I got to tell you, I got the fabulous, famous Marty Ross. I love the guy. I just spent an hour with him talking offline.
He had diarrhea. He doesn't want to mention it.
Yes, I did. Listen, these guys want to say hello.
Yeah, that's the wrong guys.
Okay, that's it. They're the wrong guys. Let's talk to the right guy. You're the right guy.
I am.
That's it. That's what I want to hear. Hey, they're coming on. People are coming on left, right, and center. Hurry up and watch this interview. It's going to be a gas. Let me tell you something. I want to talk about Marty Ross, the musician. I was going to say museum. The musician.
No, that actually, the museum, there is a lot to be said about that. That's actually, there's not too far from the truth there.
Have you been keeping now? You're writing a lot of songs?
I am. I have a lot of songs. I have songs and songs and songs and lyrics and songs. And I tell you what.
Can you grab your acoustic guitar and just play a few notes for the people? Because in Australia, they're all at home. They're bored.
Really?
Please.
Yeah, I know. But once I start playing, you'll see the numbers start going down. I mean, that's.
No, the numbers are actually going up. I'll tell you if they go down.
All right. I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. You gotta sing. You gotta sing. Oh, no. Take the rest. Man, that's genius. Hey, Marty Ross, let me tell you, you're a star. You're a star. I love it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
I love it, man.
When you get to be my age, if you're not any good at it, you should just you should give it.
You're a groove. I don't have to worry about that at my age. You see my face? I fill it up with cement and spatula. I use a spatula and I fill it in.
You know what? I could see where the spatula would come in handy with your face. The shape of it, actually. Your forehead needs more work, but the rest of it actually is done fine. You use a hot spatula or just a cold one?
No, I heat it up. But let me tell you something. When I went to Los Angeles, I was driving around in a limousine.
Los Angeles.
Sorry, Los Angeles. I was driving around in a limousine, and I was wearing my gold suit at the time because you saw that video clip of my song, Hey Bananas, We Think You're Groovy, right? And anyway, we're driving around, and I'm thinking... Did you
just get into self-promotion before I did?
No, but what happens is I'm driving around, right? And I go to the limo driver, do I look normal? And he goes, you fit right in.
Right. Yeah, I used to have a friend named Herb Dorshinsky who was a limo driver. His job was as a limo driver, and I was a poor wannabe rock star. But every once in a while, when he wasn't working on Fridays or Saturdays, I'd get driven around in the limousine. So we'd go everywhere. So one time we went out to a bar or restaurant, and the girls were going, look at him, he's got a limo, right? I sat there and I went, well, I've conned these women in the going back into the limo or whatever. And this was like after maybe 50, 60 rides with my friend Herb. And this was the one time when we got the girls were in the back seat, and he gave me the cap and he said, you're driving.
Unbelievable.
And I said, oh man, I worked so hard for this. He says, yeah, but it's my car. You want to get back. The girl's in the back, you drive. So I became the limo driver.
Listen, Marty.
Yeah.
You know my nationality. You know I'm Australian. But you know my parents, what nationality were they? Because you know.
I know that they were fishermen and the Greeks, and they were.
No, they were Greeks from northern Greece. But who else do you know that's got a Greek background? That's your mate.
Dino Kovis from the New Monkeys is.
Can you say a big hello to him?
He is. They are the kind of Greek people that are very proud. Him and his wife, both Greek, have Greek children, and at home they still speak Greek to their kids as much as they can. And it's great because you know what? Every once in a while I'll get reminded that there is a heritage there when I see him talking to his kids or whatever. And it's a great thing. My heritage is Irish, Scottish, English. So when you see my parents speaking English, it's the same thing. They feel, never mind.
But listen, mate, where did the musical talent come from? Did it come from mum or dad? Or just come from you?
I have a long line of my grandfather on my mother's side was the band leader for the Royal Air Force, and the Air Force used to go up in World War One with great fanfare. The pilots would go up, and he was the band leader, and they'd come back, with maybe 8 planes less. A very dark thing. But then my mother was a folk singer, a really brilliant folk singer who actually, her band, Burnside and Ross, actually opened up for the band in the late 60s, early 70s. My uncle, her brother, was the original guitar player for a band called The Silence, which was from Herefordshire. And he left that band, and that band got a lead singer named Ian Hunter and became Mott the Hoople. So I do have a lot of music in my family. My mother on my dad's side was a musician, and also my great-great-grandmother was the first published songwriter of Los Angeles County in 1870, and also became the first teacher and School of Music principal at University of Southern California in 1880 to 1892. So
Unbelievable.
I have a lot of music and a lot of.
Now, I want to tell you, I want to ask you a few things now, if you're ready for a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like the Traveling Wilburys?
That funny story about the Traveling Wilburys. I remember going to a party years ago at a guy named Michael Kamen, who's a very famous film composer who's passed away, sadly. But many years ago, my wife and I were going, because my wife was friends with Michael, and we were going to Dave Stewart's house, where Michael was renting it out. And it was his 50th birthday party. And up at the front door, the valets were all this, and up at the front door was Jeff Lynne and George Harrison. And I went, my legs went numb. I said, Doreen, do you see who's up there at the door? She goes, yeah, it's George Harrison. And yeah, just keep walking. We just walked up there and we went, and it was an incredible experience. Tom Petty was there. So I met most of the Wilburys. Bob Dylan was not there. And Roy Orbison, I believed, had just passed away. But it was very, very odd. And I sat there after a while with all these famous people from Monty Python, and Pink Floyd was playing in 3 days at the Rose Bowl on January 2nd of that year. And nobody's talking to George Harrison. So I went and got myself a stiff belt, had myself like this, got the courage up, and I talked with George Harrison for about 45 minutes in the middle of the floor with everybody else, all these famous people going, who the hell is that guy? And so it's very, very strange. We talked for a long time about guitars and this and that. And he made fun of David Gilmour, and he was looking over at Graham, at Eric Idle, going, he knows how to play he knows how to play guitar. And it's like this. And he's talking to me and this and that. And then my wife says it's time to go. And his wife Olivia and Danny said it's time, we want to go. So we all left at the same time, went down the hill to Ventura Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, and I started driving, taking a right, and all of a sudden there was George Harrison to the left of me on the right side of the road. And going ying, ying, ying. He had a Mercedes, kind of like souped up Mercedes, because he was a real race car guy, real fast car guy. So I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Who gives a shit, but I'm just going to go and find this and this. We're going back and forth. We're going back and forth with each other. He finally goes back, and my wife is yelling at me, what the hell are you doing? Slow down, slow down. I'm going, okay. And I slow down, and she goes, why are you going so slow? Because I was just in the rearview mirror looking, because there's George Harrison. I go, how can I fucking drive with George Harrison in my rearview mirror? So that, in a way, is my Traveling Wilbury story, all wrapped up with the George Harrison. And I asked to smoke a cigarette. Tom Petty had like a top 10 hit that night. And I went, I never I've never borrowed a cigarette or bummed a cigarette off if somebody had a top 10 hit. And he looked, he went like this. The Marlboro came out like this. He said, make it your last. So all these people, and funny from that night was that few years later, when I went to a Brian Wilson documentary premiere, Jeff Lynn actually said, hello, hi, Marty. I said, oh, I remember you. Hi, Marty. And he said my name. And that was like the biggest thing. And then from that story that was a great story. If you want to hear a Brian Wilson story.
Of course, please.
Okay. There was a documentary called I Wasn't Made for These Times. I Just Wasn't, which is after a famous song that closes out Pet Sounds. But they did a documentary and with his daughters and with all the other Beach Boys and doing, this documentary. Well, we had a premiere that we went to at the Screen Actors Guild on Sunset. And everything's going great. We're doing this. There's a packed house, this and that. All the celebrities wanting to come and do this. It's just a schmooze fest. And my wife, Doreen, who's vice president of film and TV and music at BMI, an American public, the PRO company, ASCAP's nemesis and superior in every way. But that's just my hometown feeling. She called up, she said to me, she said, I just got a phone call. Said, Brian is not coming. What? How can we, this is an embarrassment. How can you not have this thing? And Brian doesn't feel like coming. He doesn't want to come. So in a great maneuver of what my wife was and is all about, and one of the great things that's ever come about in all of entertainment history, how am I going to get Brian Wilson here when he doesn't want to come? Because Brian is very, very, very strange. So how do you get through to having him come and be in that particular moment and having him come there? Well, she called up his assistant, she said, is there any way we can get Brian to come? You got anything that I can get information wise? And the assistant said, well, Brian is really craving creme brulee these days. He loves creme brulee. So in my wife's absolute brilliant moment, she calls up a friend of hers named Wolfgang Puck, very famous American international chef, whatever, and says, Wolf, I need creme brulee. Can you give me creme brulee to the Screen Actors Guild so that I can tell Brian Wilson that there's creme brulee here? He says, fine, I'll send it over to you. Okay. That's French, not German. So he had his chefs make up a bunch of creme brulees, a stream of bunch of ramekins. She calls up the assistant and says, Wolfgang Puck has just made creme brulee for you. Tell Brian that he has creme brulee. Brian shows up and Brian walks down and says, hi, everybody. This is the greatest thing in the world. I just can't believe it. And I'm so thrilled to be here. And I don't understand what all of this is about. It was really great. They call me a genius. I guess I am. But you know what? This is a really high point in my life. And I'm really liking the film. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Straight up, back out. The show is over. Everybody's going out to the back deck, a huge deck, a socializing deck for what they have at the Screen Actors Guild theater, because this is made for after parties. They go there, all of these people, including Jeff Lynne. That's the point where he says, hello, Marty. I'm walking by him and I'm going, fucking Jeff Lynne says hello to me. That's pretty cool. But I see that there's a picnic table, a wooden picnic table with a huge amount of creme brulees, and a man that right away is facing the other way out towards the street. It's Brian Wilson. Nobody's talking to him. He's eating creme brulee because this is what my wife set up for him. I go over there and I start talking. I go, what are you going to say to him? You have to be you just can't say, hi, how's it going? I mean, you got to imagine here's a guy that's he's been through in his life and the drugs and the things and the reform and that what he's finally getting himself. How many people ask him, how's it going? It might set off something. So I just say, hi, Brian, I'm Marty. I worship Pet Sounds. So he started saying, that was a great album, man. I remember every moment of that. It was like the best thing. So him and I started having a conversation all about Pet Sounds, talking about this thing for about a half an hour until the press that was all there said, we need to have Brian come over here to take pictures with the celebrities that are here. So he said, come on, you come with me. So I went over there and I took some pictures with Brian. And then he took pictures with all the celebrities that were there. There was a large amount of them there too, because the people. Brian Wilson is revered. He's right there with McCartney, Harris. He's up there. He's not quite Beatles, but just bubbling under, and he should be, And then the next day, Doreen, my wife, gets a call from one of the photographers saying, "Who's the guy in the photographs that Brian's smiling with?" And she says, what do you mean? She says, there's only one picture that I have that's decent to use for this. And some guy's like standing next to him. I want to know who that guy is, because he's not smiling with anybody else with me. So that's that story that stemmed off of the Harrison. So those are pretty cool stories of.
Do you know what I like?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like the fact that you find the biggest celebrity and they're always on their own, and you're the only one that talks to them. There's a theme going through here.
I'll tell you, there's a strange thing that happens. Many times there is a thing in LA. It is an in-town thing. I think I find it peculiar here than anywhere else. Is that celebrities can go out to eat and not be bothered by people because everybody thinks, oh, you shouldn't bother him. He's trying to have a night out, or she's trying to do this. And people just don't go up with the thing to ask for an autograph while somebody's eating dinner. And in fact, that spreads to the whole community that people don't bother the biggest stars, because you kind of look at one way and, even my wife will sit there and say, oh, look who's there, but let's not bother them. But she'll say, I've got to try to get a photograph with this person, but that's because that's what she's there for. And she knows them. But if it's somebody, let's just say, if Brad Pitt was sitting across from us, it would ruin our dinner because we'd be staring the whole time, but we'd be like this. Look at him.
Marty, can I tell you a story?
Okay, you go. Well, hold on a second. I'm now going to do this. Don't you like? Wait a minute. And there.
Okay, now we're going cave diving.
Yeah, we used to call that just dating.
All right, do you want to hear the story?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in Adelaide near the Hilton, and I'm in a restaurant, right, with my wife in Adelaide. So I'm facing the wall, and my wife is facing the front door. As I'm having a steak, my wife goes, Jerry Lewis just walked in the door. And I'm eating my steak and going, yeah, sure. No, Jerry Lewis has walked through the door. I turn around, and there's Jerry Lewis walked in the door with his family. And then what happens is, the story is, he goes to sit in a corner, right, with his family and have a meal. And I know he doesn't give autographs. So me being the big spender, I call the waiter over and I say, can you do me a favor? And he goes, sure. Go up to Jerry Lewis and ask him if he wants a wine on me. I'll go up to $30 Australian. So the waiter goes up to Jerry Lewis and says, pardon me, sir. And Jerry Lewis looks at the guy like, what's up? He said, see that guy over there pointing at me? And I'm responding, it's me. He wants to buy you a wine, sir. And Jerry looks at the wine list, and then the guy tells him up to $30. Well, Jerry said, don't worry about it.
Really?
Yeah. True story.
Come
on, give me another story. There must have been other people that you met that You
No,
idolize.
nobody else ever.
Okay, hang on a minute. I know who you idolize. I want to talk Mickey Dolenz now, okay?
Oh,
That's fair.
Yeah, Mickey Dolenz. Here's what. Okay, I was already a guy that knew how to play guitar. I could when I was 9 years old, I could play. I could play like that. I've been playing like that since 1965, 66. So I understood what music and the production, or at least what my perception was of how to make records from a very early age. The thing that killed me about Mickey Dolenz was the fact that he knew how to double his voice. That's not an easy thing to do. And then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. And you hear this and you go, wow, there's a doubling going on in the voices that he does. Take the last train to Clarksville. This is what happens. Doubling is this, for those that don't know out there. Doubling is going and singing your track. The producer listens to it. He goes, I need to, in that era, they almost always did it like as a piecemeal. Your first verse, this and that, then the next verse and this verse, and then do it as much as you can. Sometimes you were able to do it all the way through, but rarely did that. Now, my reports from Mickey was that he did his homework on the song, and when they did this, he sang it all the way through, and then he was asked to double it. And that's a tough thing to do, to be able to do something exactly the right way. That when I heard that, I knew that they were doing this in a very professional manner, and it blew me away that he could sing like that. It still does to this day. I mean, I've sang with him on the stage several times, and I don't. He is his own thing. He's very much his own thing. I was having a talk today earlier about the initial interest in the Monkees stateside here, and it must have been the same there, was the fact that Davy Jones was English, and anything that was English was the thing. That was the linchpin, because all the teeny bopper girls, my friends, were Davy Jones, because his accent literally gave most 12-year-olds their first orgasm. And
but that's like Peter Noon of the Hermit's Hermit. Same thing again. Those two are right there.
I know, but I'm not just talking about Peter Noon. The 66, we're talking about the Dave Clark Five, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Who, Jerry and the Pacemakers. We're talking about Dave Clark Five. That whole English accent thing in 1966, there was a band here in the United States that was named Doug Sam and his something, and they released a song called She's About a Mover, and it flopped. Yeah. Then they re-released it with the name Sir Douglas Quintet, and people thought they were English, and it became big because they thought it was English. So the initial thing, when you think about Davy Jones and that whole, he was the heartthrob thing, he filled that thing, but the first hit songs with the Monkees were Mickey Dolenz singing them. So you got to figure that by that time, that was the 1-2 punch. You had Davy already there. If Davy had sung the first two hits, it would have been so leaning on Davy, and then it would have been Davy and the other three. But the fact that you had Mickey being able to sing those songs, and Davy being a star on his own, and it just made it a 1-2 punch for everybody. There was no chance for the American public to deny that.
I know Mickey Dolenz has got a unique voice, and that's a fact. The guy is one of the greatest artists and so underrated. And I've read a lot of things that when Boyce and Hart were actually producing the songs, they'd have coaxed him to sing the song. Like they'd go, come on, Mickey, you can do it. And then they'd take him to dinner or something, bring him back, and he'd just nail it. Right.
Yeah. Well, there is there is a certain crossover that you don't find anymore. The crossover being from entertainer to singer. You can't do that naturally. You'll find a lot of people now, because of the American Idol or Australian Idol or this or that or whatever, that can sing their asses off, but they're not entertainers. You can close your eyes and go like this and go, ah, yeah. And you go, oh, fine, but what do you do with that? You have to entertain. So you had Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones, who were entertainers first and singers second, who actually found themselves as singers through that great material. And then later on, as the Monkees progressed, you found out that, well, yeah, they are, Mickey Dolenz is the real deal, you know, and beyond, you know, everybody, you know, there was a really great sweet period where the Monkees were performing and Mickey would actually perform the whole set on drums, and they sounded like a different band, but a good band. They sounded like, kind of like, semi garage band, like,
yeah,
you know, you can hear the way that, because Mickey's a basic drummer, you know, this and that, but he gave us a real certain energy to the songs that the originals didn't have. So how can you possibly sit there and complain when people ask me, say, well, you know, who's your favorite Monkee? And I go, well, there isn't, I can't say favorite because the whole thing is part of it. You can't say favorite Monkee without being able to say, I wouldn't have known the four of them if it wasn't the four of them. So to be able to pick out from the four of them is be able to say, well, that one I like the best, but is that the best out of the bunch? It's my personal favorite. But you don't know what you're talking about unless you've got all four of them.
But you're exactly right there. Let me say, I actually lean towards Mickey and Mike. And the reason being is Mickey was the funniest, all right? And Mike, to me, was the most intellectual. And as far as songwriting go, and I've said this many times,
yeah,
Michael Nesmith, Boyce and Hart are my biggest songwriting influences. And that's because I'm a first-generation fan. And that's just me. The Beatles are the Beatles. That's fine. But they were secondary to me because I was too young for the Beatles. And when the Beatles dropped out, that's what happened, right? They went into the psychedelic. They left their teeny bopper fans. That's when the door was open, and that's where the Monkees came in and took over.
Well, imagine how perfect it was for the Monkees to actually have that show come out, and the Beatles go into hiding to do Sgt. Pepper for 8 months. And the Monkees come out with music that is reflective of the twang and style and harmonies of the Beatles of 2 years before, of which this was that's how huge the Beatles are, because they created a crevice for the Monkees to exist. And it's an amazing story. I mean, all of it is. You know, you can't. I was always immeasurably influenced by the Beatles because of the originality of them and the fact that they were their own cocoon.
Yeah.
There's George Martin and the four of them and the engineers. That's it.
But Marty, let me say,
yeah,
the Beatles were formed normally, where the Monkees went to auditions.
Oh, like you mean the Monkees didn't like? It wasn't like Mickey lived next to Davy and they like had a garage band together. And you mean that Peter didn't live down the street?
Yeah, but listen, can I just say something from observation? Okay.
Yeah.
The four Monkees went in for an audition. They already had Davy on the side. All right, Davy was already handpicked. Right. Then they had the other three, and at the audition, Mike turns up with his laundry. Okay, right. And then we got the new Monkees. Don't get me wrong, but the old Monkees, I don't have to say old Monkees. I don't mean it that way.
Never, don't say that. Original.
The original Monkees, right? They had 435 hopefuls, and you guys had 5,000 hopefuls. So, and it's a different gig. Wait a minute, I want to finish. It's a different gig because it's not 1965, right? You guys are 80s. It's a totally different time, different audience, and different sound. The Monkees, for example, their sound is nothing like the Beatles. To me, it's American pop rock And when you get Davy Jones in the mix, it's still not British. You might have the British vocal, but it's Americanized. It's nothing like the Beatles.
Well, okay. Then let's just open that door then. The Dave Clark Five are nothing like the Beatles.
Yeah, that's right.
The Rolling Stones are nothing like the Beatles.
That's right.
The Kinks are nothing like the Beatles.
Exactly.
The Who are nothing like the Beatles.
Well, are they? They don't sound the same.
And yet they're all four-piece bands. Dave Clark
That's
Five is a
right.
five-piece band. You know, I mean, but it's basically, yeah. You know what you just discovered, and it probably hasn't been said enough about this, but when you take 4 or 5 people to go play rock and pop music, the differences in how everybody approaches their instrument can't be imitated. It can't be changed. The Beatles sound like the Beatles because it was George Harrison, Ringo Starr, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney.
That's right. Exactly. That's the
so,
Beatles.
You know what? That's not going to sound like the Monkees, and the Monkees.
That's right.
Right. So it's strange, but since I work with the Wrecking Crew, and I have the honor of working with the guys in the Wrecking Crew who played on who were the first 2 albums.
You know Louis Sheldon. Louis Sheldon lives in Queensland.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, no, I won't do that.
Can you do it? Can you do it?
You know what, Mike Nesmith? I mean, it was one of those things where,
Valerie, we love you, Louis.
Like that, kind of.
Okay, say a big shout out to Louis. I want to interview the guy.
Yeah, hey Louis. Let's see. What was, and then no, that's Mike Nesmith. Yeah. So
anyway,
those were the licks that I
Marty
learned when I was a kid. You see that? That was my ultimate grab as being
okay, Marty. I want to get back to what you were saying, that I opened the door about these groups, and I don't like the fact that most of the groups were just 4 people. So let's continue with that discussion.
The discussion is. The discussion was that up until that in history, rock and roll had been only around for 10 years, and it had been given up for dead before the Beatles said, "Hey, look, you guys just had Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and Chuck Berry. I mean, you guys just pass that up. We're gonna take that shit and we're gonna make it something." And they did. So they brought rock and roll back for everybody else to sit there and say, this is a free form of music. You take 3 guys to play jazz together, they don't sound the same. You take 4 guys to play country, they don't sound the same. So the same thing happened with rock music. And rock music got to be where you'd sit there from one band to another. And I've had a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't the Beatles ever try to get a better drummer than Ringo Starr? And they said, well, you got to understand, what the Beatles were asking for was a guy that could play skiffle, swing, this and that, country, rock, this. They wanted a drummer that could play 15 different kinds of music. And Ringo was the only guy in Liverpool. Plus, they wanted a guy that was a friend and a guy that knew their language. That's the reason why they didn't take Bobby from the Hollies, who was an awesome drummer. One of the most incredible bands that set up that whole thing was the Hollies, with the harmonies and the guitars, and they recorded their songs. They were the band that went in after the Beatles in Abbey Road. Like I said, when they're let out, you guys, okay, fine, you guys get 1 a.m. The Beatles are here when they want to be. But that thing where the piece of the puzzle, it's very strange. Led Zeppelin, for a band that I'm not a huge fan of, but there are some things that they did where I absolutely know, oh my God, they sounded like they sounded because John Bonham was on drums. And when he died, the Jones and Plant and Page said, we're not doing Led Zeppelin again. They did it once with Jason Bonham, and they didn't get quite the same thing because you can't replace. That's what rock music does.
Yep.
So when you're fighting for that as the Monkees, coming out of your Don Kirshner era and wanting to be your own thing, what's the first thing that they want to do? They kind of want to get some Wrecking Crew guys to help them with their album because, as Mickey said all the time, he says, are you kidding me? I'm a kid coming out of this. I got a TV show and they're telling me the Wrecking Crew is going to play the backing tracks. What the hell not? You know, that's, you think about it, that would be anybody's dream to have that talent to sit there and say, put the tracks on. And then as they got more and more to it, they said, you know, we can do this stuff. And they did. And they were able to. But they did not sound like the band that was on the first two albums ever again. Then that's okay. It's just different. I think that a lot of people that don't understand the Monkees, i.e. the people that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever, the Jan Wenner or whatever that Dick Brain, esteemed publisher of Rolling Stone. From what I gather, and this is just gone from legend to legend, and I've never said this on the air before, but apparently his first girlfriend was a Monkees fan and dumped him. That's all you need to know. You can figure out the rest of it, right? You always have to sit there and say, well, maybe he didn't like it because he had the TV, this and that. Says, no, it has to be something deeper than that. Now, what if his first girlfriend was a Monkees fan and dumped him hard? I'm just saying, maybe that's the reason why every time Monkees, never, fucking never, they're never getting past me.
I got to say something about the Monkees, okay? This is just me.
Yeah.
And being their biggest fan, and don't get me wrong.
How big are
but
you?
How did they expect a gig like the New Monkees, find 4 people out of 5,000 people, this is just hypothetical, and expect them to beat a phenomenon that was there, that was before its time, that was doing innovative things? How can you compare one with the other? Let me explain. That's like trying to replace Santa.
Right.
Do you know what I'm trying to get to? It's like it's not an easy gig.
Yeah, but
it's an impossible thing to do.
It wasn't. See, there's the thing. The people that created the Monkees show thought that they had a TV show. They really hadn't gotten the update that the Monkees were a band. So, you know, if you created the Monkees in 1965, worked your ass off for 8 months to sell the show, finally get the show, direct and do all this stuff, and then 20 years later, you're going, why don't we do it again? You don't really understand that the thing that you're trying to recreate is unrecreatable. And it wasn't. I didn't go in there with the knowledge that it was going to be called that. It was the New Monkees Project. That was what it was called. And anybody that would have been told, do you want to be a monkey? Do you want to make $8,000 a week? Do you want to have your own name on out there on a TV show? Do you want to do an album with your name on it? Do you want to have the best musicians and writers play on this stuff and you get to be part of that? Tell me who the fuck a New Monkees or any Monkees fan would have said no to that. And that's the thing that I always said. First of all, I was the hugest Monkees fan, and I probably, and the other 3 guys, I probably put up with more shit about being a New Monkey coming from being a fan of the Monkees. There ain't no bigger fan of the Monkees than me. And I got more shit for being a New Monkey because of doing the same thing that any Monkees fan would have done. You would have done it in a second.
Yeah, but let me explain. I just want to come in there now.
You would have done that in a second. And
I would have done it in a second.
16,000 Australian a week.
I would have done it in a second.
Absolutely, because you love the Monkees and you want to be one.
I love the Monkees. Yes, I love them.
But you wanted to be one.
No, I didn't want to be one. But let me tell you something. Marty, let me say this now. In all fairness, right? First of all, I reckon you didn't deserve to cop any shit, and it's a different time, so it's a different ball game. Okay? They got to understand that you can't replace Mickey, Mike, Peter, and Davey. And that's just a fact. So who cares?
We weren't replacing them.
No, but you're the new monkeys. What you did, that's for the 80s. That's not the 60s.
Right. But the New Monkeys were not supposed to be called the New Monkeys. I found out we were called the New Monkeys when we went to the show in New Orleans, and they said, and I looked and there was a big, huge stand that said New Monkeys. We're supposed to stand there every day with a video of us. And I said, I think they're going to call this the New Monkeys. What?
So you didn't know what you're going to be called?
No.
So what? You just rock up and there's the New Monkeys and you're the New Monkeys.
Yeah, well, when it got to be with the press and stuff like that, and we got to be announced, and it was like the New Monkeys, I was going, okay, there was a time there where I just thought that, okay, let's go with it. Fine, they're paying me. It's a job. It's a gig. Yeah, that's cool. Whatever.
But the best one, Marty, when they lined up the monkeys in a line in front of producers, and they said, we need a drummer, and the three of them stood back, and Mickey standing on his own, and they go, you're the drummer.
Right. Yeah. Well, Dino was actually a drummer, so they did that. It was it's most of it is bad, but there are some great moments.
It's an experience. And then as I'm trying to explain so people understand it. No one said you're replacing the monkeys. There's no replacement. It's a different time. Even the hairstyle, the dress, people's mannerisms are different in the 80s than they were in the 60s. It's a totally different ball game.
Well, sure. And so, that's what it is.
And you know what?
It is what it is. I mean,
Marty, let me tell you something, all right?
Here, I'm going to tell you here. I'm going to show you this. This is when I saw this got given to me. This was given to me by my A&R rep at Warner Brothers and said, oh, look, we're doing an album with you guys, and you guys have made the album. And I went, we did. What is it? And I read this. And I looked and I felt so guilty. I said, oh, are you kidding me? I cannot be on the same album with these people. They said, well, this is really, really it. This is the album. And it's on red vinyl. And this was an album that had a cut. It's called Useville, like Christmas. This is a Christmas album from Warner Brothers, 1987. Now, here is the people that are on this album. And I will say New Monkeys last because it makes more sense to know how embarrassed I was. Okay? Aztec Camera, the Bee Gees, The Book of Love, Depeche Mode, Erasure, Fleetwood Mac, Force MD, Saida Garrett, Ice-T, Los Lobos, Madonna, The Pretenders, Prince, George Harrison, Brian Wilson, The Ramones, Sheila E., Randy Travis, The Weenans, and the New Monkeys.
Are they listed last?
No,
Are they?
I listened to them last because it's like I sat there and went, well, no, we're not on an album with all those people. What are we doing on an album with all those people? He said, well, you guys are on our label, so. And oh my God, I went, I was embarrassed. I still have that. And I have a lot of them. Jody Ritson sent me,
What'd she say?
She said, this is a cool album. Do you like this album? And I said, yeah, I have one. She says, do you need more? And I go, I don't know. So all of a sudden I've got like a dozen of them she found. And so I
got to say hello to Jody Ritson. I thoroughly enjoyed her interview. Hi, Jody. Australia loves you.
Australia loves Jody Ritson. What else can you say? America.
You know what I want to say, Marty? I want to say something, all right?
Okay,
you wear your heart on the sleeve, and you're a really nice guy. And you know what? It wasn't an easy gig No, wait a minute. Seriously, now we're talking like friends, okay?
Yeah.
Because people don't know that we spent 1 hour trying to get online together and we got to know each other. So I feel that you're like my brother, okay?
You really? Is that
Yeah, I
easy for
do.
you? So when I go over
I feel
there,
close to you now.
so you buy the first round if I'm in Melbourne?
Of course.
All right. You want me to play a little guitar?
Yes, please.
All right. See how hard that was?
No, it was easy.
All right, I'll do this Whisper Off the New Monkeys album, and I had a friend of mine, Ken Brown, that wrote this song, and I've also played this in the Wigs, which was a great band. And this is a CD of the New Monkeys. I'm promoting shit. I'm promoting shit you can't get. This is a Canadian single. You might know the way that this looks because they are small hold. Did they do that in Australia on the 45?
7-inch vinyl. Is it an EP or a single?
It's an EP.
Well, that's what we are. I'm from the band EPs.
This is the album. This is the thing that I did, which is no longer available. So none of what I just showed you is available except this. And that was the song. All right, so we're gonna play.
Let's play.
This girl I used to live with, she had a bad dream. Couldn't put it into words, so she put it in a screen. Crawled out of the window, stood up on the ledge, blamed it on the people. But then she jumped back from the edge. She said, I'm not crazy, just a little bored. Tired of being lonely, tired of being ignored. Oh, I need some affection, I need it from you. Hasn't anybody ever shown you what a little affection can do? Oh, I started to school with, had a wife and a son. I see the suburbs in a loaded shotgun. Yeah. Drove out on the highway till his motor went dead. He opened up his jacket and then he put that shotgun to his head. He said, I'm not crazy, just a little boy. Tired of being lonely, I'm tired of being ignored. Oh, I need some affection, and I need it from you. Hasn't anybody ever shown you what a little affection can do? What a little affection can do. This person that I read about, never saw him on the TV. They were taking him to prison. He knew he could be an Australian, trying to get attention. He something very bad. He trying to take something everybody should already have. He said, I'm not crazy, just a little boy. Tired of being lonely, I'm tired of being ignored. Oh, I need some affection, and I need it from you. Hasn't anybody ever shown you what a little affection can do? What a little affection can do? What a little affection can do? What a little affection can do?
Well done, Marty.
Yeah, so they picked me because I was funny.
Hey, listen, you got so much talent, but let me tell you, you're working from the phone or the iPhone.
I'm working off of the iPad.
Do you know what? I don't think that iPhone speaker can handle the volume.
You know, I didn't know until recently that I thought iPad was made just for women, but I realized that I can get one and have one too. So, yeah. Thank you for that.
Do you know how many people have come on the net now with comments they love you? All right, just so you know.
Yeah,
And
I think it's a little bit of a fault thing that the host can only see what's being said.
It's all right. Come back to the iPhone.
I'm here.
It sounds better when you're sitting up front.
I'm right here.
Yeah, that's better. I can hear you better.
You can hear me now? How about, can you hear me now?
I hear you better. I can see your teeth.
Hey,
let me do a check.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Hey, I got to say, that was one of the best performances I've seen. I'm serious. That was like, you rocked out. You really rocked out, man. Well, like in a different zone.
But that's what I do.
What?
That's what I do.
I know that, man. But it's not like you played Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. You just rocked right out.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
All right, I would say people will really appreciate it. I mean that in a very nice way.
You know what? This has been the very weird thing, but anytime that I run into people that are naysayers to the New Monkeys or Marty Ross or whatever, whenever I actually do play in front of them, they go, "Oh,
you play?" Yeah, but the Monkeys had the same deal. Yeah, but wait a minute. The Monkeys had the same deal. You guys don't play.
Yeah,
your own instruments.
Yeah, but I played on the album, so
I know that. I believe you. I just saw it.
I can play guitar. I can sing. I
can see that. And hey, Marty.
Yeah.
I also know that you play bass. I also know that you play bass. I did my homework and my research.
Yeah, you did your homework. Yeah, I play bass. But, you know, there's that old joke, you know. There's the old joke about the drums being played on the Amazon. The tourists are on that boat. And so don't worry about it. It's just something that the natives do to communicate all the way down the river. So they go for 3 or 4 days hearing the drums. And then they say, then the drummers stop. And they ask the tourist guide. And the tourist guide looks around. He's got a white face. He's going completely crazy. They go, "What's the matter?" He says, "Oh my God, it's a bass solo. Who's going to come up now?"
Hey, Marty, I got to say something, all right?
Yeah.
Now, you know the 58 episodes of The Monkeys. You know that, don't you? You've seen those, haven't you?
Yeah, I saw them the first time around.
Okay. Now, I want to tell you my favorite bit in The Monkeys, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the part where they're in the house with the big man. The lady's at the piano. Mike Nesmith's been told to play the piano, and they need help. And Davey goes up to the piano, and Mike says, "Get help, get help, get help." So Davey runs to the telephone, right? Rings up an Indian, he rings up a guy like a sheriff or marshal, and he says, "I need to speak to like Marshal Dillon or something." And the guy says, "You need to speak to Dylan. You need to speak to Bob Dylan. He'll write a song about your troubles."
Yeah, that's a good bit. Well, I think we've explored enough here.
I want to tell you, Marty, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Well, yeah, and I want to thank you a lot for I don't know what I want to thank you for.
Don't thank me for anything because we spoke for an hour before, but I want to thank you.
I've been speaking to you now for longer than I spoke to my mother for the month.
But that's good because, as I told you, we're good friends now. Okay, I want you to know that you've got a friend here in Australia.
So you'll prevent me from getting beaten up by people there, all right?
No, listen. Hey, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You can talk to me anytime you like, and I'm looking forward to doing another interview with you because at least the next one might go smoother at the start. And listen, you got to do me a favor now.
Yeah.
You got to speak to your friend Dino.
How much do I?
You got to speak to Dino for me. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Ring him up and tell him I got a guy from Australia and he wants to interview you. Tell him you're on live now.
Yeah. You're watching this? Yeah.
I can bring him on now.
No, he's having sex.
Oh, he's busy, is he? All right. Listen, Marty, say goodbye to everybody.
I told
and
him
I
to go
can't
home.
thank you enough from Plastic EP to Marty Ross. You know what? I've been entertained for the last 55 minutes. I can't get enough of it. This is better than having you in concert. Seriously.
Well, it's cheaper, absolutely.
Marty, say goodbye to everybody and stay on.
Goodbye, Australia. Thank you for your help and your understanding, and just remember, everybody take this virus seriously. Stay indoors. Have yourselves, and this is the thing. You remember that booze that you have that you've been saving up for Christmas or you've been saving up for family reunion. Now's the time to drink it.
Thank you, Marty Ross.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Peace and love.
Okay.